When I first discovered One Punch Man, it quickly became my favorite anime series ever. The flashy fight sequences, incredible animation, and compelling story was really inspiring to a younger me just beginning to discover a love for writing. Even when Season 2 released in 2019, despite the general reaction being a lot more negative from the public, I still loved it. Gaara was my favorite character, and still is, and the season definitely did him justice, despite a little downgrade in animation. The same cannot be said, though, for Season 3. Season 3 of One Punch Man was just a complete disaster, and everyone seems to have that same opinion. The animation was a downgrade even from Season 2, pacing is awkward, and despite there being a couple decent fights, it's still really just an all-around disappointment. So I was watching one of the few decent fight scenes from this season, which is Flashy Flash versus Hellfire and Gale, and the thought suddenly came to me. And that thought was, can I do this better? That thought led me on a 2-day trip through the actual trenches, taking this 10-minute long fight scene and re-editing, adding effects, and most importantly, completely overhauling the soundtrack and redoing all of the sound design. And I'm going to show you how I did it. Let's start with day one. I started off by just screen recording, getting the footage for the fight itself, and then I brought it into Capcut. Now, Capcut isn't really the program that I use for everything, but it's really a good workhorse with a lot of interesting features. I went and I isolated the vocals of the fight scene, and it immediately took out all of the music, all of the sound effects, and just left the voice lines. This was a massive, massive help, and I really wouldn't have been able to give this the same effect that I did if it wasn't for this feature that Capcut has. Once I finished removing the vocals, I exported it from Capcut and then brought it into Davinci Resolve. Now, once I had it in Davinci Resolve, I went in and I began adding music. Now, for the music here, I really just used the soundtrack of Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire. It's honestly a really good soundtrack for just general action scenes. I really loved the music here, and I thought, it fit really well. I had to do a couple cuts and things, but really, it honestly kind of put itself together. One thing I did was I cut a lot of unnecessary dialogue and honestly just some unnecessary bits of animation where I felt it was a little clunky just to make everything feel like it would go together smoother. Now, after the music, one thing that I did was I went in and I started to do just some basic color grading and effects work. Now, I don't really do a lot of, I'm not a color grading expert. I'm still new to Davinci Resolve, and so this was kind of a learning curve. But I just kind of made it feel more like it had more depth. I would add, some shadows. I would add some vignette when they're all in the cave system, and once they kind of break out into that larger area, I sort of tune the vignette down just a little bit, but still keep it darker, just so that, it kind of feels more atmospheric. Now, after all of this, day one was finally complete. I had stayed up late into the night working all this, and I got barely any sleep that night, but that's besides the point. This was an important task. Then we come to day two. Now, day two was really all about sound design. Now, I would have used Pro Tools, except for the fact that Pro Tools works really well on Macs. I do not have a Mac. I have a Windows laptop, and Pro Tools on a Windows laptop does not play nice at all. So I went back into Davinci Resolve and I began the sound design process. Now, what I do when I'm designing sound for a clip is I will always start with ambience. Ambient sound is really just an important thing for any scene that you're doing at all. It is king. Ambient sound just gives that extra bit of atmosphere when you're doing a clip. And really, without ambient noises in the background, even just quiet ambient noises, it wouldn't give off the same effect. It would feel less realistic. It wouldn't feel there. But after doing that, I immediately went in and I started just kind of breaking everything into certain segments. And I would just do all of the sound for those segments. I would start with impacts, footsteps, and then break down even further into sort of in-between sounds like whooshes. And finally, I would end with other sound effects. So, if I want to add like, a boom or some sort of reaction sound effect that'll set the mood, I'll add that in after. Now, this project was probably one of the longest clips I've done for sound design in general. This was about 9, almost 10 minutes of just straight combat. And really, towards the middle, I started to get tired. I started to feel down. I felt like I couldn't make it in these 2 days, but I kept going. I kept going and I stuck it out and I managed to get it done. And I feel like that was a good decision. With my situation being in college, I don't have a ton of time. I've got stuff to do in life, And so giving myself a tight deadline like this helps me be ready for that and for the film industry in general. When I'm eventually working on movies at some point in the future, I'm going to need to be comfortable with deadlines like that. And so I just pushed through and I kept going. I did it for you guys, I did it for me. And by the end of day 2, it was done. Before I show you the final result, I wanted to let you know that this video is sponsored by me. I wanted to remind you guys that I have released my debut novel, The Ultimate Warriors. It is out on Amazon with a link in the description. It's an epic story about a young boy kidnapped as a child and forced to undergo brutal experiments at the hands of a scientist named Adam. I can't tell you anything else. You'll have to read that for yourself. This is probably the biggest passion project of my life. This has been the result of over 5 years of work, and I'm not done either. I'm planning to release book 2 fairly soon, and when I do get that out, I will upgrade this book with a new logo, just a complete overhaul. So get this edition while you can. In a little bit, it's going to be gone and there's going to be a new edition coming out. So be sure that you do that and you get yourself this rare, soon to be rare, early edition of The Ultimate Warriors by me. But with that out of the way, let's watch the final result.
You made it. But can you... There you go. This is what makes you worth killing.
There's no way that was your top speed, though. Not from the culprit of the final 44 incident. Flashy Flash.
Is that so?
So you've been after me this whole time?
That's right! I've waited for this!
Windblade kick! Flameblade kick! Steel wire.
I never would have expected you to go charging in by yourself like this. Guess you must be pretty confident.
This just makes things easier for us.
Enough talk.
Yes, run for your life. We'll shred you into tiny pieces by your own speed.
So you come from the village, and you thought by joining up with the monsters you could take me down?
It's too cramped here. Let's move somewhere else. Not a bad spot, is it? The two of us snatched it away from the monsters.
We can fight all we want here, as hard as we want.
Know the ones about to take your life.
Are from the Golden 37.
I am Tempest Wind.
And I'm Hellfire Flame.
Who hired you two? Right after I finish up the Monster Association, I'll go pay a little visit to your employer.
You want to know our employer, huh? Well, in that case, what if I told you it's Skillfish, the king of human trafficking? The man runs a massive underworld organization. You plan to go and take down his army yourself?
No, I don't.
Why's that?
Because I already brought him down. He wouldn't stop sending his assassins after me.
What about drug shogun Harut?
I took his life too.
How about heart collector Baligula?
Finished him.
Freak phantom thief Chimagusa?
Dead.
Oh, indomitable bandit Captain Jamastorm.
Almost forgot about him.
How about the Assassination Alliance High Command?
They're at the bottom of the ocean. I don't go around telling other people, so nobody's aware of this. But I've killed all those who've ever dared to come after me. I'm getting tired of answering your questions. So, why don't you tell me who's really been orchestrating all this behind the scenes?
This is quite a surprise. Those were exactly the same people we planned to kill right after we finished you off. That said, since you've killed them all, we've been spared the trouble. So we're grateful to show it. Now you can die! Compared to the heroes, the tough fighters from the village are much stronger!
But not all ninjas are from the village.
Yet they don't compare to the ones who are! In the village, our generation, the Golden 37, were hailed as the strongest in history! And out of that group, Flame and I were the top two! Bring it on, 44th generation! Not bad.
You sure picked up the pace.
It feels like the two of you are holding back. What's stopping you? Unleash that monster power of yours.
You knew about that, huh?
From the moment we started fighting, I had a strange feeling, but I was certain when you wanted to continue things down here. You two only became monsters recently, which means you still haven't gotten used to moving at top speeds yet. And that's the reason you lured me into this open space.
Well, you knew about that and took the bait anyway?
You one cocky bastard. Better show us some respect.
Well, it sounds like both of you lowlifes need to be taught a lesson. You may be able to turn yourselves into monsters, but that doesn't mean you'll surpass me.
Those are some strong words. Too bad you'll be eating them soon. From here on, you'll need to watch us closely.
Fireburst, scatterflash, slash! What?
heavy flash slash.
You destroyed my weapon?
Indeed, it would seem you're rather useless.
I can see why they say he's a genius just like we are. When it comes to technical precision, Flash might have the edge over us both. He isn't showing a disadvantage in speed or in power flame. Clearly we're the only monsters who'd stand a chance against him. All the others...
You still think you outclass me? Tempest Wind, Hellfire Flame. I know every move of yours inside and out. After all, I've trained harder than anybody, so they're quite simple for me.
All right, think I've heard enough. And how about you, Flame?
Absolutely. I'm ready to stop fighting as a ninja. Forget the technique and weapons. The two of us are gonna kill you as monsters.
Because that is the most brutal and violent way we could end your life. In just a matter of moments, what we'll see is an overconfident weakling who's been pulverized by our unbelievable speed. You forced us to abandon our last shred of pride as trained ninjas, but out of respect, we'll unleash our full power and attack you relentlessly until you've taken your last breath. You're about to find out what separates humans from monsters.
Farewell, Flashy Flash.
Do not disappoint me!
Flashy kick!
Absolute technique. Flashy slash.
If I had gone up against anyone but you, Flash. Talk about irritating.
We assassins live in the shadows. Instead of being treated as people, we get used and discarded. Flashy Flash. I want to know, what was it we were lacking?
Neither of you had enough training.
Thank you all so much for watching. It genuinely means a ton to me. And I don't know if I'm going to do videos like this in the future, but if you do want to see this sort of thing, let me know. I'm not really great at talking to camera. I don't have, a great setup right now, so it's not really something that, I would usually do. But really, if you guys want to see more of this, let me know, and I will absolutely provide it to you. Because this was a really fun project to make, and while I usually don't like to be on camera myself, I will undergo that torture again if you guys really enjoy this. Again, thank you guys for watching.